Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Repentance, The Process of Human Demise, out September 1st on Noble Demon. The album has 12 tracks, 42 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are an American groove metal band. Now, from a design point of view, I love how this album is put together. The first thing that I notice is that instead of using interludes in order to connect some of the tracks or to give you some pockets for you to be able to see the album breathe a little bit better, they decided to go with a more compact but fluid and direct approach. Allowing outros of songs to become the intros of the following tracks is a nice way of balancing out the record, of creating a sense of continuity, but also creating a sense of cohesiveness across all 12 tracks. I honestly felt like having those elements made the experience a lot better. It made the overall album come across in a more fluid way, in a more approachable way, and definitely gives quality not just to the individual songs, but to the overall experience. As far as sound is concerned, this is a very thick sounding groove metal record. It has an interesting approach because on one hand you're able to feel all the different elements, so you can see the different layers that goes into the sound. You can hear the impact of the guitars, which in my opinion are definitely one of the cornerstones of the sound experience of this album. You can hear the drums a little bit more further back, heavy, big, but not overpowering, and you can feel the bass also playing a role and how those two other elements connect with one another. But at the same time that you have this stratification of sound, you also have this overall thickness, this robust experience that kind of brings it all together under one single umbrella and allows some of the sound to be slightly rough around the edges. So the best way to describe the production on this album is that it sounds like a live record. It has that essence, it has that energy, an energy that sees the elements coming separated from one another. It sees what they're adding and what they're giving the record, but at the same time, you still feel the brunt, you still feel the overall heaviness, the overall aggression that they're trying to create mixed into that grooviness that the album has coming across in a very thick format, which I expect to be the exact same experience of when you see them live. So it's a record that encapsulates that live experience extremely well, but now in a studio format. This is an album that from that perspective becomes a little bit richer. It's a better album design-wise, and then it's a better album sound-wise because the sound has more of a purpose. This record is not an album that has just individual songs that sound great, that have an internal journey or that have an internal point to make, but then outside of them, it's hard to find where those points start to connect with one another. This album sound-wise feels more mature. It feels like it takes you somewhere. It takes you somewhere within the individual songs, but then it also takes you somewhere in the overall big approach and the overall big picture of this record. So not overly produced, not underproduced, more a live approach as far as the overall essence is concerned. And I have to talk about the guitars because I honestly feel like they are the cornerstone of the sound experience and the soundscape on this album. It's definitely a guitar-centric sounding album. They have a lot of power, they have a lot of heaviness, they have a lot of thickness, they have a lot of groove, a lot of melody, great solos. This is a record that's really rich from that point of view, but not overly rich. They're not overly cleaned, not overly produced. It's an album that still feels very raw from that point of view, and I think having that raw nature to it enhances the melodic side and definitely enhances the groovier side of the band. The drums could have been a little bit more up front. I feel like at times they're a little bit too far back, and even when they become heavy, they're never heavy enough to the point where they catapult themselves to be in parallel with the guitar sound. They're always a step or two behind. It doesn't hurt the overall essence, it doesn't hurt the overall experience, but I think the album could have been even bigger sound-wise. You could have had an even bigger volume, perhaps even a little bit slightly thicker, had the drums at least in key moments and in key moments of the tracks and of the record moved a little bit more forward so that when they become heavier, you can feel that heaviness a little bit closer to you and not just hear it in the distance. Now, vocally, the album is super strong. I love the vocalist. I think he has a great raspy tone, great raspy deliver that adds to the whole groove of their sound, that adds to the whole melody of their sound. So it's a perfect outlet vocally and then from a lyrical standpoint for the sound that they created for this album. It's always hard to follow up a debut record. You have all the time in the world to create a debut record. You don't have all the time in the world to create a sophomore. And sophomore albums really have to show an improvement and growth from where the debut was, so that you could see the band taking the right steps up the ladder as they continue their journey. I think this album falls short on a few elements, but it shows massive growth from their debut record. And that's all that you could really hope for any band out there, and these guys are definitely on the right path. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Empire. The opening of the drums, and because they are on their own, you're able to feel them and you're able to see the essence that they have. And that is exactly the moment when you hear this song that you realize how far back those drums are more often than not, and how much stronger and impactful they could be if they were just moved slightly more up front. Now, once the guitars come in, they take the charge, they take the leadership. They're the ones moving this track forward. A track that mixes groove metal with hardcore. This song has a lot of hardcore elements in the sound, in the structure, in the design, in the guitars, in the drums, in the vocals. I mean, this is a very groovy hardcore track, if you will. Blending the two genres, but definitely giving a little bit more focus to the hardcore side. Hooky chorus, giving that live vibe. The chorus has a very live vibe to it, where the band can sing and the fans can sing back. There's this back and forth dynamic that the chorus have that will work really well in a live setting. And then it has a very direct verses, which pushes the song forward. It's a great live song. It sounds live already in the record, but I think it's going to be a great live track for this band. Next, we have All the Misery. Super intense song, off to the races, a track that doesn't hold back, a track that moves at great speed. It has a very layered chorus, both musically and vocally, but then the verses have a little bit more intensity and heaviness in them. But like I said, it's a very super driven track. It allows two different experiences to coexist together. The chorus at times reminds me a little bit of Avatar, which I thought was really interesting, and more so because of the backing vocals that the chorus have, the clean backing vocals that the chorus have. The tone, the delivery really reminds me of Avatar, but it's a great vocal performance all around as far as this song is concerned. Then last, definitely not least, but also the last track on the record, Venom Inside. This is the closing song, vocally impactful. I love the dynamic, I love the range in the sound. It has a little bit more of a direct approach in the verses, both musically and vocally. Then the chorus sets itself apart, especially vocally. The chorus is very different vocally. It's a little bit deeper, it's a little bit heavier, a little bit more volume in that pre-chorus, I should say. And that pre-chorus really sets the way the chorus comes across, and the chorus comes across with a lot of intensity and a lot of aggression. So it's a track that doesn't change that much from what you get in the verses to what you get in the chorus. What changes is the pre-chorus. The pre-chorus almost becomes a reset button that allows you to forget how similar those two elements are. So it's a really interesting dynamic to have that pre-chorus vocally really change the dynamic of the song, or at least allow you to feel like the song changes its dynamics. It has a great solo, and the solo also resets the track because it has all the right elements to break that momentum, to break that movement, that heaviness that the track has. The solo breaks it, stops it completely, resets it, and allows you to then go back to how the song started, so you can finish off exactly in the same fashion that it started. Great track all around. This is it. Repentance, The Process of Human Demise, out September 1st on Noble Demon. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.